Notice they regulate to the point that they feel when we elect them, they now have power to do whatever they want, almost like an emperor. If you don't believe me, the Obamas used that quite well. How many times did they go on family vacation that cost us millions of dollars? What's that trip in Europe she took? Took 2 private airplanes, rented out the great big 5-star hotel and stayed over there for weeks at our expense. Some people said it could cost as much as $40 to $50 million. If that ain't living like an emperor, I don't know what is. Oh, it's sad. It's sad. Elected officials have voted to represent us, and they represent themselves. I'm reminded what Nebuchadnezzar, when he found out God was in control. The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the words was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. He wandered around for 7 years, grazed like an ox in the field, till his mind came back to him. I believe the 4th chapter of the book of Daniel was written by Nebuchadnezzar. I believe the old king got saved. I believe the man got some things right with God. Notice the second thing, the display, and you get to see the eras of the forgetful nation, the mistakes and the errors that we do, and that we see a lot of them. They destroy our history. If there is no history, there is no present. If there is no history, you're bound to repeat it. Preacher, I don't like that. That's just the way we are. You know how smart we are as a people? Not very bright. The Bible refers to us as what? Sheep. Sheep are not very smart people. God knows that. We're not very smart. If you look at a sheep, everything about the sheep is all wrong for survival. He has to have a shepherd or he would die. We're not very bright. We have to have a shepherd lest we be destroyed. I think everybody in the room would agree with that. We're not very bright. The world can deceive us. The flesh. Preacher, my flesh never deceived me. How many of y'all have ever double started a car before? Wasn't sure it was running, so you turned the key one more again. Hey! Oh, it's already running. Yeah, your flesh deceives you. Yeah, it does. Because we want to. None of us are perfect mental state. But God does some things to reinforce it. And this is what we need to see. In verse number 20. Put them in fear, O Lord. This should be an honest prayer that we have. God, put this nation in fear of you. Well, preacher, the stock market crashes. So, I don't have enough money invested in it for it really to matter. Well, I was broke before I invested. Can I tell you another secret? I'm probably going to be broke when I start drawing. How many of y'all in the same boat? I'm going to do you this way. I was born naked, and I will probably leave with just about one suit of clothes as I go. Why, preacher? I have a feeling I'm going to be broke before it's over with. But people, isn't it true? This world out there needs to be afraid of God. Man, they need it. I think I'm going to go out with the boys now. Oh, no, I'm not. Last time I did it, God got me. I'm going to stay home with my wife and kids and do what I'm supposed to do and be a good husband. That's what we need to do. The preacher, you just do something. They need to be afraid of God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. How many times that meets you in Proverbs? We need to understand that. We need to pray for our leaders, pray for our churchmen, pray for our churches, that He is the authority. God doesn't ask. God is. You know, one thing that bothers churches today, they expect God to ask. God ain't never asked for nothing. He is Lord of your life, whether you know it or not. Well, preacher, I don't believe that. Then you'll find out. You know, there's a couple times in my life I thought my father was not in control. It didn't go too good, but I thought a few times in my life he was not in control. I found out real quickly he was in control. How many of y'all found that out growing up? You might not have thought mom and daddy was in control at a time in your life, but you found out real quick, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Notice the last thing on this, the error of the forgetful nation. Notice in verse 19, let the heathen be judged in thy sight. Lord, let sin receive its reward now. Why? That others could see it and be warned. Yep. That others could see it and be warned. We need that. We need to be reminded of that. We need to understand that, guess what? God does care about what we do. There is repercussions about what we do. As simple as that. You know, I'm not trying to preach anybody into hell. I'm not trying to be ignorant. I'm trying to get people warned that they can get saved. If somebody goes out there and acts like a fool and you see a horrible situation in their life, if we learn from it, that's a good thing. If we don't learn from it, we're doomed to repeat their mistake. People, I'm here to tell you right now, I'm going to say something you won't hear from most people. Let me have your attention, and I'm going to lay some heavy knowledge on you. You ready for this? Our forefathers wasn't perfect. You're not perfect. And not all of our ideas are going to work. Not all of our forefathers' ideas worked. But they knew God. And they trusted God with the end result. So though their ideas may have failed, God's solution always worked. That's what we have to have in our life. Preacher, do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? I can tell you this. The sun will rise in the morning. I'm not saying we'll be here to see it, but I can promise you the sun will rise in the morning. And God will still be on the throne. Let all those nations, let all the heathen be judged in thy sight. God, let them be judged where you can see them. Notice the last part, and we'll close with this in verse 17. The end result of the forgetful nation is destruction. All the nations that forget God. Historians proved that Israel spent 70 years in Babylon as slaves. See, when God judges a nation, and I'm not trying to poke the bear, but when God judges a nation, you read this Bible from cover to cover, God used slavery to judge a nation. When God judges America, and if America doesn't change, God will judge her. Expect some of us to be in slavery. That's the way it works. If the Lord doesn't come back and you're not dead, when America falls, and the way we're going, we will fall. We will be slaves of those that are over us. If you don't believe me, people, just look at history. How much freedom do the people in China have? Thought I'd ask. I can go around the world. Any nation that has a dictator over it, ask them how much freedom they have. Not very much. They're under slavery. We will be under slavery. You read his Bible cover to cover. That's how God judges the people. God judges with storms, situations, and the last result, when the walls come down and the nation is completely conquered, they leave his slaves. That's us too, people. And buddy, guess what? I'm not trying to be ugly, but they don't work 8 hours a day. They don't have unions to bail them out. They're not getting paid for what they do. They don't get paid holidays. Am I getting my point across? It's bondage of the worst type. It's horrible if you think about it, people. Horrible. Jonah went to Nineveh and preached. God stayed his judgment for 40 years, and God judged Nineveh. He destroyed Nineveh to the point. Nineveh was destroyed in BC, right? You know when they found the city of Nineveh was 1842 AD? God destroyed that city so bad, it was almost 2,500 years before they found it. When God pours out his wrath, people, he pours out his wrath. And that's where America is today. We're doomed to fail. And see, this is the part that we got to understand. Tommy Lauren, she's a good Republican, she's a good speaker, she's a good debater. But she was talking about that bill that they cited 6-3 against businesses having the right that you can terminate somebody if their practices disagrees with your business. And she made the statement. She said, we got to understand that we've got to reach out to all these people and bring them in. It doesn't matter who they love or what they love. We need them to be good Republicans. People, we're not trying to rebuild the Republican Party. We're trying to build the Church of Almighty God. Hello, I don't want them. If you're not going to be right with God doing this, there ain't no sense in me going with you. I appreciate a lot of the things she says and a lot of the debates, but people, I'm not worried about making Republicans. I'm worried about God's judgment on this country. Notice the last phrase, the wicked shall be turned into hell. The end result is a destroyed nation. Just as the end of time when God destroys every nation that he is, he casts them to the devil's hell. People, that's what the Bible says about a nation. The wicked shall be turned into hell. And A-L-L, all the nations that forget God. People, we forgot God in America. We take, I don't know where to start. Some churches in this area, this is their first Sunday going back to church since March. See how easy it is for the government to shut us down? They shut some businesses, churches down for March, April, May, and almost all of June. Why? Was it that bad? People, COVID-19, respect it. Respect it. Don't be foolish. But you know what? I think God can protect us when we come to the house of God. I believe he can. I don't believe we have any problem coming to the house of God. But we need to understand a few things. Watch how easy they destroyed churches. One Supreme Court ruling, and now if you hire somebody at church, this is where they're heading. If you hire somebody at church and they turn out to be something that disagrees with you and your teachings, you can no longer fire them. So what are they doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're reinforcing the sin in our country. Homosexuality is a sin. Abortion is a sin. Adultery is a sin. Lying is a sin. Cheating is a sin. I'm going down the list, people. These are all sins. But you can no longer discriminate, is what they're saying. That ought to scare every Christian in America. Because now they can tell you who you... Next thing will be who can be members of your church. Because that's what you got to understand. They're going to push as far as they can push. They act like terrorists. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. If you give them a mile, they're going to take 10. We need to see this for what it is. It ought to scare us to death. It ought to scare us to our knees. It ought to cause us to pray like we've never prayed before. Because people, we're heading for days we've never seen. And if we don't do something about it now, be right in the middle of it without any hope in sight.